Dude!
What's up, my dude?
Hey, my dude.
How's it going, my dude?
Doing it all, dude.
Dude!
Dude.
Oh my goodness, dude.
Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends with my dude, MTGJedi. What is up, my dude?
Hey man, how's it going? Yeah, super pumped to be here. We're gonna get you to 1,000 subscribers. That's my goal. Everybody, subscribe to this guy. He is well overdue for 1,000, and that's such an important thing. Hopefully, I can help with that. Either way, I'm really pumped for this topic today.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do that, but I'm excited to have you here. You've always been, one of the guys I've been fangirling over, I guess. And no, you've been helpful to me just both in the videos, and you've been a great pillar of the community, and it's always great to talk with folks like you. And as I mentioned on the other collab, you and I have been talking in the background for a while. I helped you out with a video or two, gave you a few ideas, and I help you on your stream as a mod, and it's just we rate each other. We're all good friends, and the CC community is great. So it's always nice to do these collabs, and we're going to be talking faction wars. That's what MTG is known for. That's what I'm apparently known for. And we love faction wars. It's our favorite content. And we're going to be doing some secretly good champions. So it's going to be a combination of champions that are, you get this champion and you're just done with secret wars. If you're just done with faction wars, maybe secret wars too. Who knows? More faction wars coming. And it'll be fun to see what MTG thinks about this. It might be interesting. You might get some rares. You might get some legendaries. Probably not going to get a lot of mythics. That's kind of cheating a little bit. But you get a mythic,
Can we
you probably
just say,
solved it.
as a blanket statement, if you have mythics, you're gonna use them, right?
Oh,
we
yeah.
don't need to. It's just obvious,
Yeah. Even if we talk about mythics that are not great as mythics, they're still better than most legendaries. Just use them.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
So awesome. Let's hop into this. You are the guest on this channel. We're going to hop into Bannerlords. Tell me, who is your secret weapon in Bannerlords?
My secret weapon has been the same for the entire time I've been talking about faction wars. And recently now, he's also a hero in the Cursed City, and that is my dude, Seneschal.
Seneschal. Ooh.
Yes. Seneschal is an absolute beast. One of the reasons that he's great is because he is functional at level 50, or if you put him to 60, he is still great and helpful. What he does is, on the A1, he adds that leech. So when you're using him on the bosses, that's a big boost of healing mechanic. But what he does on the A2 seems bad at first, because he is just doing the perfect veil on one ally. But what it does is it hides one champion who's low health from the boss. And it makes the boss target different champions, which is really great for survival in 3 stars. Then, on the waves, he is also going to be counterattacking and provoking and really doing a great job controlling the waves so that you can get to the boss. He's like the perfect combination of an underrated secret champion that's going to help you here. And now he's endgame viable.
Yeah, I think the only thing I've had a problem with him, and I think it's more of on a budget, he needs all the books.
You have to book him.
You really do have to book him, because this is a 50% chance bookable to 100%. If this isn't 100%, he's suddenly not worth using. But
totally agree.
But then again, you book him, you get this down to a 2-turn cooldown as well, and that is actually pretty amazing for a perfect veil. So
yeah, and he adds that continuous heal there. So he's basically a healer. He just does so much for your team.
Yeah, he definitely brings some value. Again, he doesn't require the investments on books, but there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to go a little cheeky here, but I am actually going to go down to, I have to write this, here it is, Valerie.
Ooh,
I actually love Valerie. She is 21 viable. She's not the greatest champion, and there's definitely better champions in the factions, but she does a lot of support. You get her for free even when you start the game. I think you actually are forced to get her. She's farmable, so she's really easy to book. She's got a shield. It's a 5-turn cooldown, and that honestly kind of sucks a little bit, but it's a decent shield and a good heal. And then she can extend it with this turn, which is part of why it's not as bad as it seems. A buff extension is so powerful. And it's a bit of a cleanse with this debuff that gets reduced to all for 1 turns as well. Increase attack never hurts. This is 1 book into a 3-turn cooldown. It's really the only book she needs to be very, very viable. Yeah, that's forgettable. Not a big deal. 22% HP in faction crypts. Early on, this is going to be your go-to aura. And, you don't need to keep her when you grab her first, but you can certainly grab one of them through campaign farming pretty easily. And she can really be viable even in the end game. She's not going to be like a Centranos star necessarily, but she will get you through faction wars very well, and she's serviceable in 21 if you don't have a better option.
Yeah. One of the things important to remind the viewers about is her shield is according to her level. So if you have her at level 50, it's going to be a smaller shield. If you have her at level 60, it's going to be a bigger shield. And so if you can do it on 50, great. But if not, you can 6-star her and that shield will grow. It will be bigger.
Yep. So, and she's actually got some decent stats for a rare, honestly. 1500 HP, 1000 defense. She'll stay alive.
Yeah.
So, all right. So my turn to go first here in High Elves. There's some pretty obvious, I think I'm going to stay with Tried and True. He's obvious, but it's really kind of hard to argue with Tyrell. He just brings
That's what I was going to say too. Good call.
It's decreased defense. Yes, it's on a 4-turn cooldown instead of a 3-turn. That's fine. On Faction Wars, that's fine, because the Faction Wars, other than the bosses, the champions are not that much faster, because they actually don't increase per level, which is weird, but, they don't. This stun, turn meter decrease, great for bosses. Decrease attack, great for bosses as well. Super reliable, super tanky, because he's a defense-based champion. Usable aura all over the place. Helpful all over the place, too. But for Faction Wars, I think he's still in all of my teams because he's just so useful, and you build him once, you don't need to worry about it. You can build him for damage. You don't have to build him for damage. Nice and easy.
I'm going to cheat for mine.
All right.
I agree 100% on Tyrell. That's who I was going to say. I'm going to add the entire faction as my cheat sheet for this faction.
Oh.
No, I'll give a specific example, but like literally when you have Arbiter, you can use any other 4 champions.
Pretty much.
So if you're trying to beat this faction before you have Arbiter, yeah, you might struggle a little bit. And if that's the case, then my secret answer is going to be Reliquary Tender.
Yep, that was my other option. So
that was the other option. It's just like she gives that revive, she gives that cleanse, she does a little bit of healing, and I think that she's like a really great component to your faction war team, especially for before you have Arbiter. But this is one of the easiest factions, so you can get creative here and use champions that you just want to test out. Like, hey, I think that this other rare could be cool, or hey, I really love Jingle Hunter for some reason. You can fit those in there if you want to, but Reliquary Tender will help you in case you need a secret option for early on.
Yeah, and there's like so many good epics in this faction. Royal Guard's great. Neldor's a lot of really good. Vergis is actually pretty decent. Ambassador Lethland's not too bad. Scaramus is great for control. Harris is a farmable rare that's great for damage. Apothecary, there are so many good options in this, even in the rares. There's really not even a letdown legendary as far as Faction Wars is concerned. So, good call. All right, You're up first on Sacred Order.
Okay, on Sacred Order, we just have so many options. It's crazy. I think that there's a number of champions that we could go to here. I don't know if you're gonna say Shamail, but like if you're hurting on damage dealers, I would call him out. But being that he's a void epic, I want to just give a more accessible answer, and so I'm gonna go with Romero.
Ooh.
I think that Romero is not a champion as content creators that we talk about, but this guy, he got buffed.
Yep.
He's like one of the last epics to actually get a buff. And he is very good at keeping your team alive, but also he has really good multipliers and he can help out with damage also. Without the partner pairing Juliana, he doesn't get his best damaging ability, but also then you don't have to use Juliana. So like pros and cons.
Well, Juliana
But
also got the buff too, so she's actually really good in Clan Boss now.
oh, really? You like her there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like an end game necessarily, but yeah, she brings very reliable burns now
Oh,
with this and poisons as well. You know, all the type of stuff
okay.
you want. Um,
Cool.
Fills your own turn meter a little bit, so definitely a little frustrating to use for some of the Toon teams. But you know, Poisoner and Burner for Clan Boss, yeah. So
Maybe that would be a helpful combo then for the bosses in Faction Wars as well.
yeah, and I said Ribeiro is actually a good call. I mean, I know old school people used to say he was okay because back when he didn't have any better options, he was still decent for the protection, and he got power
Right.
crept and he got buffed. So
Yeah.
all right. So I'm going to call out probably again more for early progression than a final for this, but I want to call it Mother Superior is actually a pretty viable option for a healer in this. Now, she's not necessarily the best option for everything, so she's probably not a 21 viable, but for progression in here, hey, it's an ally speed aura in all battles. You really can't complain too much about that. A3's continuous heal with a shield. They do have to be full, so the shield's a little iffy, but not bad. It takes one book to get that to a 4-turn cooldown, which for a rare is decent. This is actually a pretty decent heal because it's based off of her max HP, so 30% of her max HP, pretty solid. And a surplus becomes a shield, so again, she's throwing extra shields up there. 3-turn cooldown, books very highly for extra heals. You don't need to book her. A1's an A1, but they decrease attack if you build her some accuracy if you need a little decrease attack. She is infinitely better as a healer. I always warn people about Adriel. Adriel is absolutely horrible. I do not like Adriel at all.
Oh,
Just I would much rather
totally agree.
use would much rather use a Mother Superior. So definitely
Yeah.
earlier
Great.
progression. If I wanted to throw an honorable mention in there, my other one was Lightshorn, and mostly because he's
Yeah.
actually a character you could actually start with in some of the accounts. And this revive on death and increase defense on a 2-turn cooldown can be very clutch, especially if you don't have a reviver.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Totally agree.
So, all right, Barbarians, and I am up, and that's good. Barbarians again, one of the easy factions because you get 3 champions guaranteed. Well, technically you don't get War Maiden guaranteed, but she's campaign farmable. You get Syl guaranteed, and much like
Yeah.
Arbiter, she solves it for you. But there is no reason not to build High Katoon, at least to level 50, because High Katoon just speed kills in raid. And one book, and this is a 3-turn cooldown, just as good as Apo, better aura, usable in arena for a long time until you eventually get better champions. Um, and
Yeah.
honestly, she does decent damage with this ability, and she does decent damage with her A1 if you want to build her for some damage. And if you just build her for speed, she's not super squishy, and you got the speed aura. So, you know, yeah, it's pretty much her, Syl, War Maiden, and 2 other champions you happen to be dragging along for the ride. And it's
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I even have suggested people use Haikatoon in Hydra, like in their first team. If their team's going slowly, that's a good way to get your champions doing more hits.
yep.
I think for me, I'm gonna go to Shada. This is not a champion
Ooh.
that in the past was ever any good. But I've seen her be really potent and powerful now that she got buffed. She does increase defense on herself, which is interesting because she's a defense-based champion. She does have this weaken ability, which can be helpful on bosses, but she's another reviver. And that can be really helpful if you're having a hard time with survivability, is putting a second reviver in your team. And then that aura for speed and faction crypts. I mean, that
Mhm.
was one of your boosts for Haikatoon, right?
Yep.
And she can do that same type of a thing. So I think she's great now and very usable.
Yeah, I would you invest more than 5-star for her though? Or is this
I
more of,
probably wouldn't 6-star her, but I've used her at level 50 very successfully a number of times.
yeah, I mean, she feels like she falls off a cliff once you get Syl, but again, to beat
Yes.
Faction Wars, the second Reviver can be absolutely clutch. So,
Yeah.
awesome. All right, so you're up on Ogryn.
On Ogryn. Now I really like Ogryn as a
Oh
faction.
yeah, they've the legendaries used to be kind of meh, and they've added quite a few good ones, and then buffing Gurgo. Gurgo's a beast now.
Yeah. Yeah, really. I think there's a lot of great champions in this faction that everybody talks about. So I want to make sure that I bring up somebody interesting and different that doesn't get spoken about very often, and that's a cult brawler. I
Ooh.
think I had a conversation with somebody struggling in Ogryn, one of their last factions they needed to beat. And one of the things that they were missing is damage. A cult brawler is an amazing damage dealer. Not only does he have the poisons, but he has great multipliers. And one of the things people probably don't realize is this HP sticker on him is so misleading because he's really an attack based champion. Damage is based on attack. You build him like an arena nuker. He can do great damage for you on the bosses and on the waves. And I think that if you're struggling for damage in this faction, he's one that's very common for a lot of people to have.
Yeah, he's that's a good call out. I do want to shout out to Bellower is just an
Yeah.
absolute key to this faction. He's just amazing. But I shout about him all the time. Um, the other one that's interesting I want to shout out is Maneater that I know a lot of people know about for Clan Boss, but this A2 allows you to control the boss so great in calling out the boss. But honestly, I'm going to tell you that Urogrim is probably my absolute favorite Ogryn. Period.
Really?
I love this dude.
Okay,
Um,
deal.
well, first of all, ally speed in all battles by 20%. That's awesome. Continuous heal and 2 poisons on the wave. He's a mini Bad L. I mean, to be fair, before his nerf, he was actually better than Bad L, so they needed
Yeah.
that nerf in there. But
Yeah.
4-turn cooldown, he definitely needs the books to be very usable. But this is a chunky heal that's a full cleanse.
Hmm.
And then he's got more poisons at a decent rate on that A1. Most of
Yeah.
the time, you just turn off this A2. Not that I would ever recommend doing this, but I have soloed Ogryn with food with Urogrim. It takes
That's so fun.
4 minutes. It's stupid, and you get 500 XP per champion, and you wonder why you did it. But you can do it, and it's hilarious. But that means that he can carry a bunch of other champions that can kind of survive through faction
Mhm.
wars, and he
Yeah.
can do it through any floor.
Yeah.
So, just you get him and you've solved faction wars. And he's a lot easier to build now that you've got the blessings and you've got the ascensions for gear.
Yeah.
It used to be, yeah, you could do it, but you probably needed almost end game gear. So you probably had already beaten faction wars by the time he could solo this. No, nowadays it's not that hard to do. So,
Yeah. And I think our two suggestions there work really well together.
oh yeah,
Like that's a poison pumping machine there to just like take down the bosses. So
yeah, and then that you can build a Carlos Frishy because your Grim will keep him alive. So.
yeah. Yeah.
All right, in Lizardmen, who do I have for Lizardmen? I think I'm going to call out the weird one because why have one Broadmaw when you can have two? And I'll admit that you're the one that gave me this idea, but I absolutely love the idea. He's free to fuse, so he's a pretty accessible champion. I think he's
Mhm.
actually underrated as a reviver because he's got some mini arbiter like abilities because he's got the increased speed, increased crit rate, and turn meter fill on this A2. It's actually a 3-turn cooldown if you book it. This
Yeah.
book's down to a 4-turn cooldown. Yes, it's 2 random allies, but block damage cannot be overstated at how effective that is at keeping champions alive to get a turn, especially in
Yeah.
faction wars. Um, Actually a pretty decent aura as well. So if you need defense, that's not too bad. An A1 freeze, I never build him with accuracy, but if I had the stats to do so, especially if I had 2 of them, yeah, I'd build one of them with accuracy. A decent freeze, 45% chance on an A1. I'm not going to complain at all. And now you get 2 of them. and you can pretty much walk up there with a bunch of other champions that probably are not survivable, but can at least do some damage. And
Yeah.
faction war's done.
I don't want to take credit for the double Broadmaws. That was my dude William. He actually used three Broadmaws. I think his original team was 3 Broadmaws and 2 Rosins, if I remember correctly.
That's funny. Knowing William, they were probably on Frost set as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to William. He's an awesome dude, member of the community.
Yeah, for sure. I want to mention the Lizard Bros, as I like to call them, Durang and Basilisk. I just want to say, like, if you want to invest in them early for Faction Wars, they've been so great for me in Cursed City. They will reappear later when you get there. But I think I'm going to mention a rare, just because, anytime you can mention a rare.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to say Terex.
Ooh.
All the way down there at the bottom.
I've not spent a lot of time looking at him, so...
I have almost 6-starred him so many times. I need to just pull the trigger at some point. But Lizardman does not have a lot of control. And he brings an AoE provoke. Granted, it's not 100%, but like this 75% is better than some epics. You know? And then he has a strengthen buff on all allies. The counterattack is confusing. I don't understand that. Because, like, what are you counterattacking for? To put increased accuracy on yourself? I don't really get that. But AoE strengthen and AoE provoke on a defense-based champion that you can probably run at level 50 paired with your Broadmaws, I think is just a really easy addition to the team.
What I see this for, actually, which I think is kind of an interesting option, is I think this could be a mischief tank for a low-level Hydra team.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and honestly, what I would probably do with him as well is then put him in provoke set. Because then not only does he have this provoke here, if he misses it, he's still got the provoke set chance as well. You give him the mastery that gets the extra 5% as well. So 35%, 80%. And then he has a chance to place the provoke again on the A1 when he counterattacks, when the head count attacks him to try to steal his buffs or anything like that too. Not going to say this is going to be an end game meta Hydra Boss unlock, but
No.
If you're trying to get your first set of keys and get that top chest on normal, you use what you got, and yeah, this could be fun.
Yeah, more reminders to farm Ice Golem are always good too.
Oh yeah. So you're up next, I think, with Skinwalkers.
Skinwalkers, perfect.
So you're gonna say Leorius, right? Because that's your favorite champion, at least it used to be.
Yeah, Leo, he's totally a cheat code. I mean, if you have him, you got an easy time here.
Yeah, he was my first Void Lego, actually. So
was
awesome.
he?
He was.
Wow. Yeah, unfortunately, I hate all the rares for this faction. Even like people use Gnarlhorn and Phantom Shogun. He's just not good. So we gotta make some call outs.
Not even a Greybeard?
No, not even. I don't even like Greybeard.
Fair enough.
But that's just me. I think there's a lot of great additions to this faction. I really, really do. But I think that I'm gonna have to go with some type of a healer here. The healers in this faction is just like really hard for some people, but we've gotten an amazing new healer in Bovos.
Ooh.
He's got a passive that heals the allies when they're hit. Admittedly, it's only with a critical hit, but I think that he, with the removing of the debuffs on the A3, and he does have another AoE ability on the A2, so he could be a stun set type of a champion. I think that this is a guy that could really help you out, especially if you need some other type of support.
Yeah,
he's got a
speed
strong
on the
base
A1's
HP.
nice. Yep.
Yes. He's got a strong base HP, so he could be good in a shield set or a stun set. And I think like he just has a lot of cool things about his kit. But don't be afraid to use those rain beasts if you're hurting for the healing, though.
Well, that actually dovetails into what my thought is. I'm going old school with Steel Skull.
Yeah.
Mr. Baconator right here. He is still best, yeah. Increased defense and a 20% of their HP. Yes, it's their HP, but it's an AoE heal with an increased defense, which gives you some tankiness. This 40% heal, again, their HP, but it's still huge and it's a cleanse. I just talking about how great this is on Eurogrim. It's also great on Steel Skull. And it's a 3-turn cooldown when you book it. His poisons aren't great. If you do manage to book him, and he's honestly worth booking, this is a lot of poison suddenly, because 35% on an A1 each hit, I believe. No, it's not each hit. It's just a chance of placing. But still, not too bad. I mean, heck, really, really old school. He was a clan boss god, which is kind of shows you how far we've come at this day and age. But he's just great.
He is.
Got a decent aura as well. The speed is actually, I think, the real reason why he's super good. 111 base speed when you 6-star him,
It's
decently
crazy.
HP. Yeah, he is crazy fast, which means for a healer, he can heal an awful lot. So,
Yeah, especially if you get him over 200 speed. I like him with resistance and in regen if possible, but just like getting him over 200 speed for your team, you're just gonna cycle through those abilities so quickly.
yep. So yeah, and then yeah, there's not a lot of healing on this faction, and even once you get into the legendaries, it's just so having that healing helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
So I am starting here with the orcs. And orcs are one of these weird ones too. I still think the legendaries are getting better, but they're still not as good as they could be. I think they probably are like a buff or two away from being really good, but like Teal is actually
Yeah.
usable now. Brago has always been
Yeah.
decent. Shayek's actually pretty nice. But leaning in
A lot
here,
better than they used to be, for sure.
oh yeah. Leaning into the orcs though, it's a void, but I love Tuhawk. I think Tuhawk is absolutely amazing. The dude actually hits really, really hard. Amusingly, and this probably speaks to how bad King Garag is, but he's got almost identical modifiers as King Garag does, which is sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does decent damage. His attack isn't as high, so he's missing out a little bit on that, but he does a decent amount of damage. He's got an A1 that can increase the cooldown on target skills. This can be actually good for trying to lock out some of the Valkyries occasionally. A2 is an AoE decreased speed. Decreased speed, always a great way to control the waves. Increases his own speed as well. Does some healing if he's low on HP. He's got a turn meter decrease. That's a turn meter steal if he's low on HP. Also with a stun. Great for the waves. Great for controlling the bosses. And he's got some mechanics to take less damage when he's below 60 HP as well. Usable aura. Not the greatest. It's 22%. But it's an all battle aura. Very, very well-rounded champion that you can build for total damage and not worry about him dying when somebody breathes on him.
Yeah, when I started over on my new account to get Leo,
Mhm.
he was in the team that I cleared him with, so definitely still good. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
actually,
echo everything you
mm,
just said. It's all right on point.
and just on usefulness in the end game, I actually used him for a while in my Dark Fae team because he's got the turn meter
Ooh,
and the decreased speed as well. So, useful end
love
game
that.
was actually, I think
Yeah.
he was my AoE nuker for a while in that before I ended up switching to Velad, I think.
Yeah.
So, all right, what you
Oh,
got?
I'm excited. This is
Mm,
one of my new favorite champions on my entire account. And previously, they were not usable because of the squishiness. But now this faction has 3 revivers. It's very likely that you will have one of them. And my pick for this faction is Zargala.
yep.
Zargala has been just an absolute all-star. I literally just built a second one for help in Curse City to speed up some of these waves, make them easier, and as long as you have a reviver to pick her back up because she's an attack-based damage dealer that you want to put accuracy on. You want to
Hmm.
build her like a nuker and then man she smacks. So I love investing in her now. And her kit is going to have that crack armor, which gets her an extra turn, and then the AoE decreased defense.
Yep.
So she really does a lot of things for your faction war team.
And actually got her own aura too, so you actually can build her with a little less accuracy if you know
Yeah,
she's going to be in the lead. She
yeah,
does
for
do
sure.
a ton of damage. Um, I personally like Duck just a little bit better. Duck the Pierced for a decreased defense champion alone. But yeah, he does not outdamage Zargala in any way, shape, or form. She is an
Yeah,
absolute beast.
yeah. Cool.
Alrighty.
Demonspawn.
Demonspawn, and you are up.
Demonspawn. I think Demonspawn is pretty reasonable. But the fact is that so many of the epics are terrible. I will say that one of the issues for a lot of people, if you're stuck on this faction, is survivability. And so I am gonna call out Nazana here. She's not the best. She's definitely not the best. But she does have a really thick shield and an ally protection. So if you don't have a reviver, you can even put her in a stun set or something because of her AoE A1, and she has an AoE decrease attack A3. The HP aura, all of that stuff, it is usable. I think you can get away with her at 50. If you do end up 6-starring her, she can be used later on in Curse City for endgame stuff. But she's a lot more useful than I've given her credit for.
Yeah, I agree. I've actually talked about Nazana being a good champion several times. The fact that you can put her in sets is great. The ally protection actually means that if you get her, she's a viable option in Clan Boss, actually, because she also gives you
Oh,
the
that's
decreased
cool.
attack. So,
I would love to get her on my new free-to-play account.
yeah, so very, very good champion. Not obviously not great, not like end game meta necessarily, but definitely going to help you in faction wars. Um, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Duchess is a hard carry, but obviously Duchess is a hard carry. She's a great champion. Dur is kind of required as that reviver, and he puts some healing out there as well. But I think Allure is actually kind of undervalued in this faction as well,
Ooh,
just
good call.
because this A1 here, everyone knows this turn meter reduction. She's certainly fallen under the radar a bit because Hard Fire Knight now exists and she's not useful there. But this is a lot of turn meter reduction if she critical hits. She's actually really good with a couple blessings that decrease defense per hit because she does it 3 times. It is at random, so it's against the waves. It's not as great. But hey, you've got a sleep here and a decreased defense, even if it's the weak
Hmm.
kind. Great to use. There's not a lot of decreased defense champions in the Demonspawn either, at least on the low end.
Right.
So, and a sleep's not bad. This does decent damage, but honestly, I'd probably actually just turn it off and stick with this A2 and the A1. Accuracy and faction crypts as well. Again, very useful when you're trying to climb and if you're running low on stats, particularly for her, because you want her super fast and you want the crit rate. So,
Yeah, for sure. I think she's great if you just A1 on the boss also.
yep.
And actually some resistance on her is great for the boss because she'll get like frozen and stuff. And you want to be able to control his turn meter. So that's an excellent one, man.
Yeah, or something like an HAC protection from debuffs or something like that too. You know,
Mm,
stuff like that.
yes.
So all kinds of fun stuff you
Yes.
can do there.
Yes.
Alrighty, so we are at Dark Elves.
Wait, Dark Elves.
Are we
Are we on
Dark?
Undead?
We're on Undead. Yes, we are.
Okay, let's do
We are
Undead.
we are totally professionals here, guys. You know, Undead. So this is me first, I think. So what did I have for? Oh yes, I remember what I had for Undead. I am probably going to pick our first legendary that we've actually just said, but
Okay.
Crypt King Grawl is,
Get
I think,
out.
oh yeah, Crypt King Grawl. And first of all, he's a great burner. I mean, you do kind of have to book him, which does make it a little frustrating. But for progression, you get Crypt King Grawl, you're gonna book him for Spider anyway. So this is not anything I'm asking you to do that's gonna be not you're gonna be doing anyway. But it's this A3 that got buffed. Freeze for 1 turn is so valuable against the Valk wave on Fraction Horse 21, and then it increases the burn turn to 3 turns, giving you burns as a way to damage all the Valks, burn them
Yeah.
down while freezing and controlling them. And then you've got the decrease attack, which can be useful on anybody. It's irresistible against what's 100%, not irresistible, but it's 100% chance against somebody under burn. He gets the burns out there quite a bit. Yes, he does require being books, but I was actually really surprised how key he was. I managed to actually get through this without a reviver, which is probably one of the hardest factions to get through without a reviver.
It is.
And it was Crypt King Grawl that carried it through the takeover. And
Wow.
just really, really, really is an absolute beast.
Okay, well, I was gonna say if you need damage, go Dark Elhain. But I'm gonna counter your legendary with a better legendary.
Okay.
And this is the worst legendary in the game, except for Faction Wars, and that's Elgaius.
Yep.
Elgaius is terrible. I'm just gonna tell you right now, it's terrible. Whether you think this is a girl or a boy, I don't care. It's terrible champion. Except for Faction Wars, it will seem like you are the most overpowered and make this as easy as possible.
Mhm.
It's S tier for Faction Wars. And it's really that ability right there. Yeah, you're going to put the cooldowns on the Valkyries. You're going to do everything that you need to do. You're going to mess with their turn meters. You're going to remove buffs. You're going to put block active skills. You're going to put their skills on cooldown. On the boss, he's not going to die. He just stays alive with his passive. And then you can heal him back up and do it all over again. It's just this champion is literally the perfect Faction Wars champion. And if we ever get hard mode Faction Wars, I'm going to build one. I'm going to build one and 6-star it and see how it goes. Would love a buff for this champion. I've always had a special place in my heart because of how good they are in Faction Wars. But if you want an easy time, this is the one.
And honestly, an easy buff that would make Elgaius relevant, just make this an AoE. Don't get rid of the stupid duplicate skills. Make it an AoE.
Ooh.
And
I love that. I love that, because then you have a potential Hydra champion if they have AoE block buffs on the A1.
And potential arena, because you now have a 2-turn lockout champion as well.
Yeah.
And it's not super overpowered necessarily, but block buffs and a lockout, you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
Love it. Love it.
Dark Elhain's good mention. Husk is huge with that stun. Don't underestimate his stun and control with that provoke. But all right, so now we're on Dark Elves. All right, and you are first for this one.
Lots okay, now here. With Dark Elves, oh man, there's so many options. I even think that this is, very doable with maybe even all rares. But you have so many good champions in this faction, like whatever ones you want to use is probably good. You can do it with all login champions. But the champion that I think is the secret key to victory is Painkeeper.
Dang it.
Painkeeper is giving you the healing that you need, no matter... I stole your idea.
Yep.
All right, well, you got to come up with another one on the fly.
I've got a backup, so...
This healing is very hard to get in this faction. It is hard to heal your champions in this faction. Painkeeper's amazing. You'll use her in so many different ways, but the AoE heal is so clutch for keeping your team alive.
Yeah, and this decreased cooldown, that is such a powerful ability as well. 4-turn cooldown is great, even if it's just 1 turn. You're constantly filling your own turn meter with that A1 as well. And a usable aura and faction crypts. I mean, it really is the perfect champion, and it's an endgame viable champion. I've got 3 of them built. I don't know if all 3 of them are 6 stars even, but, they're good champions. But yeah, just on the rares, you've got Coldheart in this faction. Don't need to tell you how good she is. You've got Kale in this faction, starter champion, probably the best. Heck, Spirit Host is usable for some stuff. But probably the budget option here that I think is kind of overlooked because he's really not great endgame, but Spider is actually super valuable. 75% chance for decreased attack, but it's an AoE. 75% chance. Actually, this does book up to 100%. It's the 100% decreased defense and a 70% chance of the weaken. But decreased defense and weaken by an epic, you just don't get that anywhere. That's absolutely amazing. 5-turn cooldown, kind of harsh on there, but very, very, very useful. You don't need a Madame Ceres. I mean, Madame Ceres is great, but you don't need a Void Epic. You need this dude. 25% speed.
Buffed him, he would be legit too. Like, if we just change those cooldowns there, we wouldn't just be saying he's a secret, secret to Faction Wars. We'd be saying, level him up for other areas too.
Yeah, and even if this was a 4-turn cooldown, got booked to a 4-turn instead of a 5-turn, That's really all he needs to be okay.
Yeah.
Now he's a solid epic. Maybe
Yep.
make this 100% as well. Maybe not.
Yeah.
It's you know.
I like it being 100%.
I think so. Then he's even got a random buff removal, 75% chance on the A1. That's actually pretty nice as well. So
Yeah.
I forgot he even had that.
Especially because you're building it with accuracy already.
Yeah, he's you don't need to build him with damage. He is slow. He's good though. He's definitely an easy to overlook. But yeah, I mean, there's so many good champions in this faction at every level too. So
yeah.
Alrighty. Dark Elves. I am going to go back to Legendary, and I'm going to throw a big curveball here because I don't think anyone's going to see this coming. Fortis.
For Knights Rev, you want to pick Fortis?
Yep. Now,
oh crap! I hear the comments coming. Oh boy, here goes.
Now, hear me out. And I understand that Fortis is not the greatest legendary in the game. He's just not. But first of all, Fortis actually pairs really well with Tia because Tia also throws out fears, and Tia's the first guaranteed. So that's part of it. But he is a defense-based nuker, so he's tanky. He has the nukes, so he can do damage. He could obviously you want to build him with some fears because he powers himself up with these fears. This skill actually hits fairly hard, and this skill eventually can nuke as he continues through the waves as well. He's actually really good for the wave clear. What I think a lot of people are sleeping on with him is this active effect that prevents his death and keeps him alive with 1 HP. And
okay, fair.
This is actually where I have actually, I didn't even expect this. I had Fortis, I built him because I thought he might be kind of cool. I was disappointed like most of the rest of you guys. Throw in Faction Wars with Thea, and then walked away and came back and found him soloing the boss. Okay. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, he basically can't die against the boss with this. It's a 4-turn cooldown. If he's fast enough, he'll get it back before he can die again because he's so tanky. And this is the boss that does the HP exchange. So this means that if he's the guy that gets hit with the XP exchange, and then he has almost no HP, and then he tries to get killed afterwards, he just, doesn't die. And then he gets sleep put on him, but, oh darn, he loses a turn for sleep. He gets a chance to go again. And then meanwhile, for all these waves, this extra 15% fear and true fear, very, very good. Yeah. It's not an accessible champion, honestly. He's a void legendary, but I really think Fortis is actually kind of underrated for this. And I think he's actually underrated for wave clear in general. And
I love that call out because there are plenty of people who just say, I know Fortis is bad. Everyone says Fortis is bad, and then don't give him the time of day, even in their faction war team. So I love that.
Yeah, and just to throw Faye out here, she throws True Fear out all the time, just randomly with her passive. So, not that Thea's necessarily great, but she actually can hit pretty hard and nuke as well. And the two of them as a pair can basically solo clear waves pretty quickly.
Yeah, love it. You know who I'm picking?
No, because there's probably about 10 of them I could pick in here. So
no, you don't know. My favorite champion from this faction.
Rector?
Nope.
Oh.
You don't know. Oh, I thought you knew. This is my favorite rare champion in the entire game.
Yes, I do. And I don't know which one it is because I forget because two of them look alike.
It's Guardian.
That's it.
Yeah, Gladiator is garbage. Guardian guards your team. And this guy is literally the key to victory for so many people. I've lost my breath recommending this. Every single time anyone asks me about this faction, do you have a Guardian? Because his A1 just removes all of the buffs. It's the same thing as a buff strip. And, it's so hard to get through those Valkyries. But Guardian just puts counterattack up on himself with the A3. And then counterattacks and strips the buffs with the A1. And it's been a success story for so many people to clear this faction for years at this point. And his A2, just like you were showing him a second ago, has block buffs on it. It's random, so it's not the best. And then because you don't really need a lot of stats on him, you can put him in a toxic set to help with damage on the boss too. He's just so good and so helpful. My favorite rare champion, Guardian.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, I think Acolyte's the third one that kind of looks. They're all Tomb Lord knockoffs. He's the one that's got the cleanse on him as well. So if you're desperate for a cleanse, Acolyte's not horrible as well. But yeah, Guardian is a beast too. Yeah, that is. Yeah, Gladiator's trash. So and Tomb Lord's great. So but awesome. So that's Knights Rev. So all right. So don't want to come up short here for the dwarves. You're up first.
I'm gonna pick Phyla as my champion, but you could say everything I'm about to say for Phyla also goes for Gala, and they're pretty much interchangeable. One of the hard parts for dwarves can be damage. There are plenty of dwarves that do a lot of damage, don't get me wrong. But a lot of people, when they struggle with this faction, it's because they don't have enough damage. And Phyla is just a champion who has really good multipliers that never gets talked about. I think at this point, everybody knows about Gala, or most people do. And yeah, you're right. With the turn meter depletion, is just amazing. So I think she's a really nice addition to your team.
Yeah, nice self-buffing passive there as well. All the attacks. And yeah, the turn meter, especially against this boss, because this is one of the instant kill bosses, that turn meter depletion is great. That's one of the reasons Hernick is great in this faction too. Not that I'm going to call him out specifically, but so good. Couple different options here. Obviously, Demitha is just an absolutely amazing champion, and she's been good here too. But I want to call it a rare. My favorite rare in this faction, and one of my favorite rares, Avir. I think does an awful lot of work. I had this dude for a long time on my clan boss team. He was one of the first champions I invested in, originally heavy on my account. I don't think I ever 6-starred him, but he was I had him 5-star all over the place for a while. Yeah. Dropping the staff there. Got a poison on the A1, part of why he's okay. And clan boss poisons are great. A little bit of extra damage. Decrease attack and decrease speed, as well as that's a target under poisons. It's also an attack on everybody else. That's great as well. And then he's got a turn meter and a heal on this on a 4-turn cooldown. It's a decent turn meter, decent heal. It's his max HP, which, to be fair, it's a rare. It's not the best, but he's decent for a rare. Just useful skill, useful everywhere for early progression. You can use him against the boss, because especially, again, turn meter and healing is very critical against that boss as well. So, great.
Yeah, love it. Fun. Totally agree. I think Avir's great.
All right, Shadowkin.
Are you up first here?
I am up first here, and I'm going to take my favorite Shadowkin epic, the Frog.
He's so good.
He is the key. It's pretty much everyone that says they're struggling on Shadowkin. Do you have a frog? And if they don't, I'll say, well, get a frog. That's probably your best strategy.
And now he's popping up in some of these download links for the game, so more people will have him just automatically.
Yeah, and he's the quintessential clan boss epic from a ally protection standpoint, because he's got this passive where he places the poisons, which is great. He's got the ally protection, and this is the key. The boss that instantly kills you by ignoring defense and hitting with max HP, ally protection nullifies that almost entirely. And so you do have to kind of manual it when you're doing the boss, which, to be fair, if you're 3-starring the boss, you're going to probably be manualing it anyway. But you get that ally protection up right before the boss takes their turn. They take their turn. Doesn't matter if they stun everybody. They use this ally protection as long as he's not targeting Taragi. And if he's targeting Taragi, hopefully you've got a reviver, because there actually are revivers in this faction now. Otherwise, Taragi's got him covered. He's also got a super chunky heal with this as well. This provoke is great for the waves. Decrease attack is great in general. Just so good. Resistance aura, yeah, whatever, I guess. But, it's better than nothing. But, resistance auras are not that great, unfortunately. But it's the only negative to his kit. And it's, might as well not have an aura then, and he's fine.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. He's the go-to, for sure. He is the GOAT of the faction wars.
Yep.
One of my favorite faction war strategies is my pick for this faction, and that is Umitogi. Ooh. Nobody ever talks about this chick, but she does a lot of these same things that we've been talking about for these secret keys to victory. And it's all about her passive here. When the champion is attacked, completely blocks one hit, decreasing the incoming damage to 0. Then she counterattacks. We don't care about that.
Mhm.
On the boss, it's 50%. You book it. It's a 2-turn cooldown. This does not matter what level she is. So you can use her on 50, still blocks the damage. She's so great. And then to pair with that, after she takes that damage, you use her A3, put Perfect Veil on herself so she can't be hit for the second time in a row, and she heals back up, then takes another turn and goes through it again. So she helps you in order to survive those ignore defense hits and spread it around your team.
Yep, and that's awesome too, because yeah, it basically means that if for some reason the frog isn't up and she's hit, more RNG in your favor. So awesome. All right,
Yep.
so I think you are first for our final Sylvan Watchers.
Okay,
They're actually
shout
nicely
out
fleshed
to
out too, by the way. So that's nice.
yes. Shout out to this faction being like really well laid out. I would say the hardest thing for this faction is probably damage because it has just such great support.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really matter as long as you have somebody who can do some kind of damage. I like to say the best champion for this faction is the rare Knot. That is the best rare reviver in the game. His whole kit is great, and if you have him, you can pretty much run whoever you want with him. Just as a reminder, if you're struggling, 6-star people. You don't have to beat it with all 50s, but he's just so great. His kit all works really well together. It's everything that you could need. And when you put him in like regen, you can put a little bit of resistance on him. He just feels unstoppable and just sets your team up for victory.
Yeah, I like him. Actually, I like him better than Renan, who's the epic rare too.
So
Just
much better, yes.
and that's I think where my pick comes in, and it's definitely an obvious pick. But Dathi is just a beast in this faction, and
He is.
he single-handedly can solve your damage issue.
Yeah.
Increases accuracy on himself, so you can actually build him with lesser accuracy if you need to. The increased attack is great, gives him an extra turn as well. Then he gets an extra turn if he lands his decreased defense on everybody, which hopefully he should. And that means he gets a chance to go to his 1, which gets him an extra chance to get an extra turn, which might mean he get back to this A3 again. And then you put him in a relentless gear if you can possibly manage that as well. And he just keeps taking turn after turn after turn after turn. And he's doing tons of damage while he's doing it. He's got an accuracy aura in all battles as well. Just an absolute beast. And there are other damage dealers in this faction now. It's gotten a little better, but he is by far the best one, and you really can never underestimate how important decreased defense is. It really is one of the single best debuffs you can get on for doing damage. So
That's a great mention there. I want to just like highlight and focus on that. If you're making it all the way to the end of the video and you've been waiting to hear all of the different factions, make sure you have decreased defense champions on your account. This guy is perfect. He's so good, but a lot of the times when people are struggling in content, it's because they don't have this ability. It needs to be in every team. The only exception is sometimes Arena, you don't need it, just because of all of the sheep nonsense. But this ability should be in every team, and that's one of the main ways you do damage. He's one of the best versions of this ability. And so if you are looking for somebody to 6-star in this faction, he's a great one. Good damage, good end-game viability, and a really, really strong move set combination.
yeah, and like I said, if you don't have the relentless, because relentless is not the easiest set to get. That's fine. Don't put him in relentless. Put him in perception. He'll do just fine. Put him in cruel. He'll do more damage. Get the savage on there if you can get it. Just so good. But yeah, this decreased defense, and it's one of these things I know early on I underestimated it quite a bit. I was like, I'm not seeing the difference with it because you don't necessarily see it immediately in the numbers, particularly when you're lower down and you're only doing so much with the numbers. It's just the combination of as you get further and further in the game, defense becomes more and more important, and this decreased defense becomes that much more important. So
yeah,
so
totally agree.
It has been a blast. We have actually managed to get through every single faction. It only took us, almost an hour, but,
Oh boy.
Hey, long video. It should be a lot of fun. But it has been a blast to talk to you, my dude. You're, I said, you are one of the guys that helped inspire me to get into the content creation, and all the content creators are great. It's such a great community, and I think you're a big part of that as well. Just keeping the positive vibes and, just keep it going, and appreciate you stopping
Thanks,
in.
man. Oh yeah, it was my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me here. Now you got like an hour's worth of work to clear all those red dots.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys making it to the end of the video. Subscribe to Bront, guys. He's great. We want to keep him around. Sub to him. Put a comment below. Was this video helpful to you? And thanks so much for having me, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. And yeah, go check out MTGJedi as well. You might have heard of him. I hear he's a big deal. So check him out. We both stream on Twitch as well. Lots of fun, and love helping folks out and doing videos like this. So go check him out. Get that subscribe button over on his channel as well. And until the next video, I'm Bront CatHerder.